In the heart of the night city, where skyscrapers claw at the stars and streets pulse with neon signs and the flicker of surveillance cameras, lived a woman whose life was built on lies. Her name was Evelyn Harper. To the world, she appeared as an elderly woman with silver hair pulled into a tight bun, dressed in a simple gray janitor's uniform, pushing a cart filled with cleaning supplies and rags. Every night, she entered one of the most heavily guarded buildings in the capital, the headquarters of Omnicorp, a technological giant whose influence surpassed even that of certain governments. She passed through biometric scanners, X-ray machines, motion detectors, and was always let through without question. Who would suspect the quiet woman mopping the floor to be a former CIA agent, one of the most successful operatives in intelligence history? Who had vanished 20 years ago after a botched mission that cost the lives of 7 of her comrades? But Evelyn hadn't vanished. She had retreated into the shadows, changed her name, buried her past, assumed a new identity, and started over, not for herself, but for him. His name was Marcus Harper, her son, the man she had given birth to in the slums of Detroit, in a house with no heat in winter and no water in summer. She raised him alone, working 3 jobs so he could go to school, so he could eat, so he could dream. She studied with him late into the night when he first showed interest in computers, algorithms, logic. She saw how his mind worked faster than any teacher's. She saw how he read physics textbooks in 10th grade while other boys dreamed of basketball. She saw the fire in his eyes when he spoke of a future where technology served people, not controlled them. And she fought against a system that from the start considered him potentially dangerous, fought against teachers who doubted his abilities, fought against police who stopped him every time he stepped outside, fought against prejudice, the fact that his skin was black and his dreams too big for his so-called place. But Marcus didn't just grow. He shattered every expectation. He graduated from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology with honors, earned a PhD in artificial intelligence by 28, became head of a research center at Nexus Global, one of the most innovative companies in the world, by 32. And by 36, he was CEO, the first Black CEO in the history of the nation's largest tech corporation. He was called the prophet of the digital age, a genius who changed the rules. He implemented ethical algorithms, banned the use of AI for surveillance without consent, and opened access to educational technology for millions of children in impoverished communities. He didn't just run a company. He changed the world. And for that, he was hated. At first, there were anonymous letters, racist slurs tossed into his mailbox, then cyber attacks. His personal accounts were hacked, offensive posts published in his name, then an attempted arson at his suburban home. Police investigated, but found nothing. Security was increased, but Marcus wasn't afraid. He believed this was the price of success, that hatred was a natural reaction to change. But Evelyn knew better. She didn't see isolated threats. She saw a system. Too well organized, too well funded to be the work of individuals, she began watching. Not officially, not as an agent, as a mother. She hired a former colleague from intelligence, a private detective she trusted more than anyone. She asked him to trace the sources of the attacks, financial flows, IP addresses. What they found stopped her heart. The funding didn't come from radical groups, not from competitors. It came from the shadows. From covert funds tied to major corporations losing billions due to Marcus reforms. From political circles resentful of his growing influence. From intelligence agencies where old guard operatives saw him as a threat to stability. His ideas about transparency, AI oversight, redistribution of technological power, they challenged not just business, but the very structure of authority. He wasn't just a businessman. He was a revolutionary. And revolutionaries are quietly removed. Very quietly. When Evelyn realized how deep the threat went, she made a decision that changed everything. She returned to the game. Not as a mother. Not as a former agent. But as a spy. She got a job as a janitor in the building housing Omnicorp's headquarters, Nexus Global's main competitor. The building was guarded like a military base. Biometric scanners, drones, internal cameras, access controls. But janitors are invisible. They aren't scrutinized. They're part of the background. Evelyn used that. She passed every check, presenting herself as an elderly woman with no past, no interests, no ambitions. Just a job. Just survival. But inside, she was sharper than a blade. Every night, as the building sank into silence, she began her real work. She didn't just mop floors. She scanned documents left on desks, eavesdropped on conversations in empty offices, used miniature devices embedded in her mop handle to copy data from computers left in sleep mode. She found flash drives forgotten in printers, recorded office numbers, names, meeting schedules. She wasn't looking for mere evidence. She was hunting for a plan to destroy her son. And she found it. In an office belonging to a high-ranking Omnicorp advisor, she discovered an encrypted file. To the untrained eye, it was nothing. But Evelyn recognized the encryption style. It was used in covert operations she had once overseen. She copied the file, sent it to her contact, a former cryptographer she trusted above all. 48 hours later, the answer came. It was an operational plan. Codename Project Phoenix. Objective: the discrediting and elimination of Marcus Harper. Phase 1. A cyber attack on Nexus Global's internal servers, manipulating data to frame him for a massive data breach affecting millions. Phase 2. A setup via a deepfake video showing Marcus meeting a foreign intelligence agent. Phase 3. Physical elimination disguised as a robbery or accident. The operation was coordinated through a shadow network involving corporate agents, former military operatives, and a high-ranking official from the Department of Defense. Evelyn went cold. They didn't just want to ruin his career. They wanted to erase him. Forever. And then she understood. Going to the FBI was useless. The system was infected. Even if she presented proof, it would be buried. She herself could be eliminated as a mentally unstable former agent. No. She had to act alone, but not as a mother. As a soldier. She launched her operation. Not for revenge. For her son's survival. First, she planted false trails. Through fake accounts, she began leaking fragments of information from Omnicorp to independent media. Not everything. Just enough to raise suspicion, not enough to trace the source. She created chaos. Internal audits began. Paranoia spread. Trust among employees collapsed. Then she struck technically. Using old connections, she anonymously sent a warning to Nexus Global through an encrypted channel. No name, no details, just keywords: Phoenix, leak, forgery. Marcus' team immediately strengthened cybersecurity, installed new protocols, blocked suspicious IPs. When the attack came 3 weeks later, it was repelled. Data wasn't stolen, but the attackers knew their plan had been exposed. Evelyn didn't stop. She began gathering evidence against specific operatives, photos, audio recordings, financial transfers. She moved like a shadow, entered as a janitor, left as a spy. She overheard a meeting between two agents in an empty conference room, captured their voices, recorded names, learned who was responsible for the fake video. She knew if they made the deepfake, it had to be perfect, convincing enough to destroy Marcus' reputation with one click. So she decided to strike first. One night, sneaking into Omnicorp's digital processing lab, she copied their deepfake technology, used it to create the opposite, a fake video showing Omnicorp's CEO meeting the same foreign agent, this time with clear evidence of money exchange. The video was flawless, impossible to distinguish from real footage. She sent it to 3 places: a major news network, the office of the Attorney General, and Marcus' personal server with a note: "Don't trust anyone, especially those who claim to protect you." 24 hours later, the video exploded across the information sphere. Omnicorp's CEO denied everything, but trust collapsed. Stock prices plummeted. An investigation began, and in it, links to shadow funds and government officials emerged. The chain led upward, but Evelyn knew it wasn't enough. They could survive the scandal. They could find a new scapegoat. They could still attempt to physically eliminate Marcus. So she made the move that would shock anyone. She revealed herself, not publicly, not through the press. She went to her son, to his home, at midnight. Without warning, he opened the door, surprised, saw his mother. But not just his mother. He saw something else. In her eyes fatigue, but not weakness. In her movements age, but not tremor. In her voice silence, but not surrender. She said, "I know what you're thinking. That I'm just a mother who worries. But I was in intelligence. 10 years. I worked undercover. And now I'm back in it. Because they want to kill you. And I'm the only one who can save you." He didn't believe her at first, but she showed the evidence. Videos, documents, names, timelines. He saw the scale, saw how close they had come, saw that without her, had already be dead. They talked all night, not as mother and son, as allies, as strategists, and together they made a decision. Marcus wouldn't retreat, wouldn't hide. He would step into the light, but on his terms. A week later, he held a press conference, not as a victim, as an accuser. He revealed everything. The attempts to discredit him, the cyber attacks, the assassination plot, Project Phoenix. He didn't name everyone, but he showed evidence videos, documents, logs, and in closing, he said, "I am not afraid. Because behind me stands the truth, and behind that truth my mother, the woman who has fought for me my entire life, the woman who now fights for all of us." The room fell silent, then applause, then tears. Evelyn sat in the front row, in a dark dress, no makeup, no words, just watching her son, the man she had raised, the man she had saved, the man she loved more than life. The investigation continued. Arrests followed one after another. Omnicorp's CEO was arrested. The Defense Department official resigned. The network was dismantled. But Evelyn didn't stay. After it all, she left, vanished again. Not because she was afraid, but because she knew true heroes don't seek glory. They act in the shadows. They protect. They disappear so others can shine. Marcus continued his work. Stronger, bolder. He founded a fund to protect digital rights activists, implemented internal oversight systems to prevent future conspiracies. He spoke of his mother in every speech, but never by name, only as the one who taught me that love isn't a feeling. It's an action. A year later, in a small coastal town, an elderly woman with silver hair cleaned a classroom at the local school. She came every night, quietly, unnoticed. The children didn't know who she was. The teachers didn't either. But one evening, a boy who stayed late saw her, instead of wiping the board, quickly typing on a laptop connected to the school's Wi-Fi. He approached. She closed the screen. "Are you looking for something?" he asked. She smiled. "Looking for those in trouble. Like you might be one day." He didn't understand, but he remembered her eyes, calm, deep, as if they had seen everything. The next day, news broke. A major international network trafficking children's personal data had been exposed. The leak originated from a school server in a small town. No one knew how it happened. No one knew who was behind it. But the janitor was gone, leaving only a clean floor and an old mop with one word engraved on the handle, Mom. People still speak of her, of the woman who was more than a mother, more than a spy. She was a shield, invisible, unbreakable. She didn't ask for recognition. She simply did what she had to. Because when the world threatens your child, you don't choose between safety and truth. You become both. And if you are a mother, you become more. Quiet, fearless, relentless. That's how you save those you love. That's how you change the world. Not with loud speeches, but with actions in the dark. With a mop in hand and a heart that never surrenders. Years passed. Marcus Harper became a symbol of a new era. His company didn't just survive, it thrived. His initiatives on AI ethics were adopted as standards in dozens of countries. He received international awards, spoke before the UN, advised governments. His name became synonymous with integrity in a world where integrity was rarely profitable. But he knew the truth, that behind every step, every success, stood a shadow. The shadow of a woman who had sacrificed everything for him. He searched for her for years, through private detectives, old connections, encrypted requests. But Evelyn remained invisible. She left no trace. She vanished as a true operative should. One rainy evening, he received an anonymous package. No return address, no stamp, just his name written in a familiar hand. Inside a faded photograph, him 10 years old, riding on his mother's shoulders in a park. They were laughing. In the background, a sign on a ride, "You can do anything." On the back, one sentence, "You've already done it all. Now protect others." He stared at the photo for a long time, then placed it in his safe, next to the first chip had ever built under her guidance. And he understood. She hadn't disappeared. She was still fighting, somewhere else, for another child, for another truth. And as long as mothers like her exist, the world can still be saved. Not by laws, not by technology, by love. Ruthless, invisible, eternal.